Hello, my cutest of all cutinesses. I would like to talk today about my young age and going out and going to the disco and doing all kinds of fun things and like go dancing and singing, especially with Boy George and Madonna and all about the 80s. But the 80s were also, on one side you had, and I'm gonna add an extra light maybe, yes, hope it's better. The 80s was all about do's and don'ts and smack it all together. It was one big jar of mixed colors. Everything was possible. You could hang yourself full with colorful necklaces and nothing had to match. You could do the David Bowie makeups. That was really pop art on your face. But what we did when we went out was mostly jeans combined with pink and blue tones. But there were so many mistakes we made in makeup, and I would like to show you a few. And I will do every look completely. After every look, I will tell you what in my personal opinion, so it's not the truth for everyone. What's good for you doesn't have to be good for me, and vice versa. It's very well possible that you do the things that I call wrong, but that they're perfect on your face. But I'm gonna do things that were totally wrong for me and my friends back then, and they did it all the time, and I was so upset when I saw them every time. While my makeup back then already was kind of flawless. I blended, I made my makeup very heavily, but it was okay. While some of my friends, oh my god, okay, I'm gonna start with don't number 1. Don't number 1. Nothing but a line in the eye and nothing else. I hate that. Especially, I had a friend with very long, beautiful curly hair, but a very skeleton-like, fallen in, very bony structure, a very pale face. She didn't use any powder, any color, so just so pale naturally, and all she did was do her waterline. Only that waterline had to be really black. That's for me a don't. My second no is Look at these eyes. The mascara was totally one big lump and clot of mascara. The lower lid is way too thick colored in one same color, and it's blue. There's nothing wrong with blue. I love blue. I adore blue, but look at this blue. Look at it. Take a look. Take a look. Now let the camera zoom in. Come on, do your zoom work. Do your zoom work. Even the camera doesn't want to see it. Look at this. The lower lids are blue in a very thick line. The upper lid is wildly, because there's no powder or anything underneath, wildly applied in another blue. Then on top of that, instead of using eyeliner, what it's made for, it's used as eye makeup on the top lid. So also another blue, which you don't see because it's completely lost in the other blue. The mascara cluttered all over the place. It wasn't a problem back then. It was fashion. It was beautiful. The blush was dramatic. It was so bad. Now I am exaggerating, but even if you take a brush and try to save it, what you get is way too much blush in a way too deep and too pink color, which they never could blend out enough because there was no powder underneath. They used it straight onto the skin, and that was it. The lips. Why again blue? I had friends who did this, so I'm not lying or faking anything. I had friends who did this, and you can use it together, but this is... And the corners of the lips were not supposed to be touched by lipstick. So when you opened your mouth, you had these gaps where there was no lipstick, and it just, when you cleaned the corners of your mouth like that, your lipstick was like this. So take a look at this look. There were two options for brows. I'm gonna do one on each side. Either you had Madonna brows, but in those days Madonna brows were a wild grow of never trimmed brow hairs. It was almost like bristles. And I am now exaggerating, but after an hour their makeup really did look like this. And thank goodness it was an evening look, but some girls put this on in the morning and went to school like this. So you had really wild hairs growing and being everywhere where they shouldn't be because they were never picked. And people like Madonna had really dark hair. She was always blonde, but for real she had very dark hair. Wasn't she Italian? I think she's Italian. So either you had that, or you had almost completely picked away and then a line in the place of the brow. So you had either that disaster or either that disaster. but it was all a disaster. So this is my second or third or fifth and sixth all mixed together. Please, no. Now I'm gonna take this off and I will be back for my next no. The next step in the makeup was they discovered powder because they didn't want to look that pale anymore. Finally, I thought, they have invented powder. I already had experienced daily moisturize. I got blue on my teeth. I already used some kind of a foundation, which was just a tiny bit more than my own skin, but we didn't powder it off like they do now. The creams weren't like they are now. I'm not gonna exaggerate. I'm gonna take this BB powder that I always use, but it was applied with a sponge. These were the sponges that were used, of course. They came with the pack, and it was mostly by Milan, a factory here in Belgium. And you took a good amount of powder on your sponge and you started applying. And you had really good coverage with those powders. They were darker than this actually, but I'm gonna mix it a bit with an eyeshadow so that I get a little bit darker effect. Yes, that's better. And you really pressed it in very good. They stopped there. So what do you have? You have a dark brown line that stops right there. Someone in my family did this too, and they looked like this. Oh, am I not beautifully tanned? Look at my color. I am so perfect. Look at me. Look at how white my neck is and how brown my face is. Look at my line. I really have a line there. Oh, I really want to show you. Look. White, brown. Oh my God, I'm so pretty. I'm so beautiful. And it stops right there. And then I have a very pale neck. So it's brown face with a white neck. And you had to see that line. And they stopped on the hairline and they didn't do their ears. I really hope you can see it. That for me, and the line in the eye only were the most terrible, horrifying things you could show me. It was, there's not anything in the world in makeup land that I hate as much as this. The cluttering mascara. The one color use, which was just packing on colors upon each other without any gradient, without any possible shading or whatever. Now I'm gonna do my makeup exactly the same way as when I was 16. Now what we didn't have were the same creams as now. Therefore, I'm gonna use a BB cream. We had no primer. We had no special effects of anything. We only had a couple of colors. I only had a light pink blush. I had a powder like this Miss Hallen's, or like that nude that I just used. I'll use the same powder. It was comparable with the L'Oreal Nutri-Gold BB Cream Anti-Age. So what did I do? I just took some cream, I tapped it on my face, and I just started rubbing it in all over my face and up to my hairline. I applied it everywhere and I let it float down the neck. Now what I didn't do, and I remember that, I didn't powder. I also didn't have a brush set or anything that we have now. I just didn't have that. It wasn't available then, and especially we didn't have the money for makeup. So the few things that I had were, I had just one of these with 2 colors, and I had a facial cream. So I put on a light base. Brows I didn't do. I didn't do anything about my brows. Now they are thinned out, but I don't have much brow, so the bit of brow that I had was all that I used. For my eyes, I had a light pink, and I took my finger and I started gently putting pink on my eyelid. This was also my setting powder as they would use it now, but back then you had to be very careful or it cluttered in any possible way. So gently I started applying pink, and I did make it almost like a wing. So I did create a bigger surface, and as you see, if you layer it on, it gets a bit darker. So I am taking a tiny bit of more dark pink because mine was a little bit darker, and I kept on rubbing until I had the purpleness or pinkness that I wanted, and it was quite vibrant because it was an evening look to go to the disco. I was so in love with George Michael back then, oh my god, and the man that I met, which I instantly said, that's the guy I'm gonna marry. You can ask my friends from back then, but if you would see my friends from back then and you would ask what the first thing was I said when I saw that guy, I said, he looks a bit like George Michael, that's the guy I'm gonna marry. And it's my Eric, and we have been together since last month for 29 years, so it was the guy I was gonna marry. Then I took my purple and I applied that to the lowest part of my moving eyelid, and I only had one color of pink and I had just one color of purple, and then I dragged whatever was left on my finger, if I had applied a bit, up to the side. So I created a shadow on the outside. So I created, without knowing back then, a wing. A purple wing on a pink surface. But I know that I had a lot of friends that were so jealous of my makeup and that they were really anxious to know how I did it, and they really were jealous. And I always did the outside of the socket so that it looked as if there was a dark purple shadow, and then I filled in my pink again so that it was a bit gradient. I took a little brush that wasn't a makeup brush, that I'm very sure of, and I took a bit of my purple and made a line but it was not connected like we would do now. And okay, I poked my eye again. But I actually tried to, and there I poked my eye again. So this was how I did my makeup, and I had a black mascara, not a blue one. And it was, back then, normal to use this kind of brushes and put on a few coats and put black on the tips so that it did look a bit cluttered, but not like I did with the blue one. So I just brushed upwards and sometimes I applied just the tiniest touch to my lower lashes, and then
I did my lips, and I did use a vibrant color like this.
I recognize my face from then now. And then indeed with blush, but a lighter color of blush, and with a cotton swab or another sponge, I did gently apply it. All I had left to do was taupe up my hair for about 2 hours. I had the thinnest hair, almost none, but I got it as long as halfway my shoulders, and I used to perm it and make it a little bit more blonde. It was so damaged. It was really terrible, but it had to be tauped up, and every single hair had to form a square shape around my face. Jesus, this is my look from those days. So I had blonde hair, and this had to be put aside so that it went back, and this really had to stand like that. I'm gonna try to find a wig if I can. And my fringe was tauped so badly that it was standing like a ball. It was one almost like a lion's head. I found a wig, and don't start laughing. This is how I started my hairdo back then. Everything had to be in every possible direction, as high as I could get it, from the back to the front, from the front to the back. Everything had to be like that, from top to bottom. And then I started picking out, with the tip of a comb, I started picking out tips of hair that let it look as if I really had that much hair. And this part was behind my ears and was very flat, so it was to the sides. An outgrow, and now you see my black hair a bit, but an outgrow was normal. And then I started tauping it some more, especially the back part. And my hair was a bit shorter than this, but it looked like this. And I took a comb and I went over the highness, and I used about a complete bottle of hairspray every time. So this was a makeup that I had at 16. So let's say this is a makeup from the 80s. For all of you who wanted to know how I was at 16, well, this is the makeup look that my friends and I used in the 80s. I hope you enjoyed this video. I did. It's a real flashback for me. My love for makeup spread all over to you. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share as much as you can. Thanks for watching. See you next time, maybe even tomorrow, because it's still my 30 days marathon. Bye bye for now.